Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to another video. Thank you very much for clicking on my thumbnail and deciding to watch this video. Hopefully you're going to get some fun book recommendations here, kind of challenging myself to try and recommend you different books every time I do a video like this, but that also means my reading pace has to keep up with my recommendations pace, which just isn't a thing at the moment, or was for the Bookoplathon weekend, because that was like 8 books. So I definitely can recommend you some books that I read that weekend, which is what I'm going to be doing, among with a couple of other books, but these recommendations are going to be books that I would recommend you can read over the Easter break. So in the UK we get Friday and we get Monday off of work for bank holiday weekend, so it's like a 4-day weekend. It's brilliant. It's kind of like Christmas because we get these days free from work. Not everyone gets these days. If you work in retail, unfortunately you do not, which is crap. I've done many years in retail working bank holidays and looking at everyone else's days off and thinking But I work in an office job, so generally office jobs do tend to shut down. So if you're not in the UK, hopefully you also have some time off. Or generally, if you're in retail and things, I hope you're still able to get time off if you are still working throughout lockdown. So these books are books that I think you could really easily get through over the weekend. I'm not suggesting all of them necessarily, but they're all shorter books that I think are quite fun, fast reads. So basically I just thought I'd throw recommendations at you and just try and mix it up a little bit with the books I'm showing you. So let me know if you like these recommendations. Do hit a thumbs up button on this video because that helps with the algorithm and all those fun things. Comment, subscribe, all of those things, and there's a link to my Patreon down below if you want even more of my content. So without further ado, there's 7 books here, and the first 2 we're going to start with are middle grades. First up is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This currently is a trilogy. I think there might be more in the series, but this is Victoria Schwab's middle grade series, and it follows Cassidy Blake, who basically had a near-death experience, and this allows her to be able to step into the Vale where she can see ghosts who haven't been able to move on yet. So she helps them move on, goes on adventures, sometimes gets haunted, and her best friend is a ghost as well, which I just love. So she's going around with her parents, who are ghost hunters, or kind of. They're making a TV show, The Inspectors, about ghosts in various different cities, and she follows them along with her ghost best friend, and I absolutely love this series so much. This is so fun and easy, but also has that element of a paranormal fiction without having to be a paranormal romance, which I like. This is a middle grade, as I said, so the main character is, I think she's 12 possibly, but I enjoy the paranormal sense of this because I'm quite interested in reading more books like that, but I don't really want to read paranormal romance. So this is a good middle grade for me. And I also recently got these hardbacks from Blackwell's and I love them. I love them. The paperbacks are nice for these ones, but the hardbacks I adore. Then we've got Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This follows a young girl, Morrigan Crow, who is told on her 11th birthday she's going to die, which is pretty crap, pretty morbid concept for such a young person to have to deal with. Not the best, and she is kind of dreading that day arriving, and when it does arrive, this guy comes along who is called Juniper North, is that his name? Yeah, Jupiter North. It's been a couple of years since I read this book, but Jupiter North comes along and basically sweeps her up away from this world and enters her into this magical competition thing that she has to find her speciality in, and basically tells her she is special. And it's just fun, whimsical, magical, and also hopeful, because I think the fact that this follows a young girl who thinks she's going to die on her 11th birthday and she's kind of resigned herself to that, and when that doesn't happen, there is a real strong sense of hope throughout this book that she's going to have a better life than the one she has spent her whole life expecting she's going to get. I really enjoyed this one. As another middle grade, it does read quite easy. I think there's 3 out in the series at the moment. Is there 3? I think I could be wrong. There may be more, but I have got the second one. I haven't read it yet. I will be reading it because I just really like the dynamic between her and Jupiter North as well. They're fun characters, and I think sometimes I enjoy more, as I said with City of Ghosts as well, I enjoy the fact that we remove romance from these kind of things and it is just a fun plot with fun characters, and the romance doesn't need to tangle it up and complicate it any more than it needs to. So yeah, middle grades I like for that reason very much. So this is my second middle grade recommendation. Then I'm recommending the Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Fowley Doyle. This is kind of folklore-esque in feel, like it feels very autumnal, cozy, cottagecore-y, folky. It's a story about 4 girls? Yeah, 4 girls who come across a spell book that basically unlocks some secrets within their town and changes things up a little bit for them. I read this a couple of years ago because I was meeting the author at Yalk. So is this signed? Do I have this signed? I do have this signed. How exciting. And I really enjoyed it. It was the first book from this author I've read. I have got another one from her, and I do look forward to reading that one because I felt that this had a really nice quirky style, but also had this really nice cozy cottagecore forest vibe about it. I think this would be a really good one for autumn as well, but I'm recommending it for this Easter reading time because I felt like it was so immersive, that it was such a fun and quick read, and the characters just had this great dynamic because I think one of them is a stranger to the group. Yeah, there's three, so Olive meets three wild and mysterious strangers, Ivy, Hazel and Rowan. Oh, is there 5 girls? Like Rose, their mourning losses. Ah, there might be 5 girls, okay. Yeah, okay. Hang on, I've forgotten a little bit, sorry. It's about Olive and her best friend Rose, so they're together, and then there's these 3 other girls, so it's 5 girls who find the spellbook, not 4. It's been a while, but I really enjoyed what the spellbook opened up in terms of the magic system here and how it just kind of fits into the world that we know as well. Then I'm recommending My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. I read this one really recently and absolutely loved it. It was really different, I think, from the way that it told this story's perspective. So this is about a girl who's, well, a woman who is covering up murders for her sister who is a serial killer. The main character, she pretty much lives like a relatively normal life. She is in a really successful job promoting her way up to head nurse. She likes a guy at work, she is respectful of her family, and then she's thrown into these situations when her sister basically kills the boyfriends she's seeing when she doesn't want to be seeing them anymore. And she kind of helps her clean it up, and it's such a weird concept because it's so casual. Like, it's like, oh, these people are dead, but like, that's okay. Like, you can certainly see it's weighing on her conscience, but her ultimate core is protecting her sister. I think it's interesting because normally with a book like this, we would either be following the killer or the person like that's maybe survived or something like that, whereas the fact that we're following the person cleaning up after it all is a really interesting perspective. This has really short chapters, like a couple of pages a chapter, if that, and each chapter focuses on like a different theme, which is made apparent in the chapter headings. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would because I thought I'd heard mixed reviews basically, but I gave this like a solid 4 stars, and I thought it was very addictive writing style, very addictive story, and just a bit different really, which I think when so many plots can be reused and rejigged in so many different ways, it's quite nice to read something that isn't what you've read before. Then we have got a very wacky Neil Gaiman book. This is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I read this one as soon as I finished uni, and I think it sticks with me for that kind of era of my life. So I'm not going to remember like the exact details of this one, but if you've read anything by Neil Gaiman, if you've watched any film adaptations from Neil Gaiman, basically if you've watched Coraline, you will know the absolute bizarre absurdity of his writing, but also the way that he kind of encompasses a nightmare in some way into what he is writing about. And the thing about nightmares and dreams is that there is no limitations and there is no line to cross because anything can happen. Like, a worm comes out of someone's foot in this, I think. Does it say anything about that on the blurb? Like, I distinctly remember something about a worm coming out of someone's foot, like a proper worm, which was just a very weird concept. But this is following a young boy, and so much stuff is said in the blurb. I'm really struggling to remember like the main plot point of this, but there's something to do with like a dead man being found and this young boy going on this adventure and finding this like very weird, trippy fantasy world almost that is at the end of his lane. It's very bizarre, very immersive, very fun read. If you've not read anything by Neil Gaiman before, this is a great place to be able to start. This balances being really creepy with also being really beautiful and compelling. So basically, if you're looking for something a bit weird and a bit different, then this is definitely one to go for. If you have read anything by Neil Gaiman before, you will know what to expect, and if you haven't, welcome to the wild side. Next up, I'm recommending How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. Matt Haig is such a fantastic writer. The Midnight Library by him I absolutely loved, and that is one a lot of people talk about. Haven't seen as many people talking about this one, so I thought I would give this one a shout out in this video. This follows a man who has been alive for a very long time, but as we currently meet him, he is an English teacher or a history teacher. That would make more sense. He's a history teacher. He's a 41-year-old history teacher, and he basically keeps changing his identity so he can just blend in certain places and just kind of remain this ever-aging, well, not really aging, but ever-living guy. And there is only one rule in that he can't fall in love. Cue this book. I enjoy things like this because I like how we get reflections of different time periods, and there's kind of almost something for everyone here because everyone always has like their favourite time period, so you can always get different bits of information pulled in, and when you've got one character that's been alive through all of those time periods, that makes for a really complex character really because of everything they've seen and how they've had to grow and adapt into each time period. And I wonder how interesting that would be, because if you'd lived throughout very limited technology and then lived in a world with smartphones and social media, but you'd seen the gradual growth of it, would it be so terrifying, or would it just be something you picked up and got on with, as people are doing now? Like people that were here before social media, hello, just kind of grow and adapt with it. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, social media was not a thing, and then Instagram was out when I was like 15 maybe? No, older than that, like 16 I think. So yeah, I know that's a very millennial example, but I remember really enjoying this one. I think this was one my mum got me for Christmas and I read like straight after Christmas years and years ago, and immediately felt connected with it and felt like it was a really interesting read. So if this sounds like something you would be looking for, I would definitely recommend it. Lastly, I am recommending you Nevermoor by Noelle Stevenson. This is a graphic novel and it is so much fun. It follows the main character, Nevermoor, who desperately wants nothing more than to be a sidekick. They are a shapeshifter as well, which makes them quite an interesting sidekick, but they want to be a sidekick to this dude here, who is a supervillain. And then we've got superhero. And basically the supervillain is just awful at being a supervillain, like really, really bad at being a supervillain. And basically just never really wants to thwart the good guys. Like they just want peace and love, I think, ultimately, even if they won't admit it. I think there's some kind of chemistry between the two of them there. So basically, for being a supervillain's apprentice, sidekick in this kind of situation is not really what Nevermoor wants, and they are constantly just wanting to destroy everything, and it's just very funny and it was just enjoyable. As soon as I finished it, I was like, I need to find more stuff like this, and I haven't found anything like this. I think it was just comical because we have, on the one hand, a really crap supervillain, and then on the other hand, this sidekick that just wants to destroy everything and be like the best sidekick to a supervillain who probably doesn't really want to be a supervillain and actually just wants to hold hands with this guy, I think. It was fun. So yeah, that's a graphic novel, so that one definitely is one you could read over the Easter weekend. Hopefully that gives you some good recommendations with enough time to buy the books if you did like any of these and wanted to purchase any. I have affiliate links down below, by the way, if you ever wanted to use those. So an affiliate link works in the sense that if you bought anything from WATERSTONES, for example, I would get a very small percentage cut of that sale at no extra cost to you. So there are links down below if you did want to check any of these out. Let me know if you do read any of these or what your recommendations are for the Easter break. I hope you guys have a great Easter break as well. I know I'm putting this up in advance, but I wanted to give you enough time to pick up the books basically. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, as I said, giving me a thumbs up really helps. Commenting down below helps too, and subscribing means you get to see all of my videos on your feed, and you can press that little bell button too to give yourself notifications. If you really like my content, you can support me in other ways via Patreon, which basically means I am going to be more and more able to create more content and hopefully be able to do this full time at some point. I'm getting there. I am getting there. But anything on my Patreon just contributes towards me being able to do that, which is mega for me. So thank you so much to anyone that supports me there. It's very much appreciated. Thank you though so much for watching. Keep smiling and stay positive.